Hello, friends. It's Tuesday, March 19th, 2013. I'm Matthew T.G.
I'm Heath Mulligan.
Yeah, friends, and I'm Tony Casey. Welcome to the Technology Show, weekly podcast featuring technology, theology, and everything in between. This is episode 195.
We are the longest running technology podcast in the world.
In the Wesleyan Church, at least. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, let's welcome via Skype line today Russ Gunsalus. Russ started pursuing his call to ministry by attending Bartlesville Wesleyan College and graduated in 1986 with a Bachelor of Arts in Pastoral and Theological Studies. He then completed and received the Master of Divinity degree from Asbury Theological Seminary in 1990 and is now pursuing a PhD from Purdue University. Currently, he is serving as the Executive Director of Education and Clergy Development. Russ, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Tony, Heath,
Welcome,
Matt.
sir.
It's
Good
great to be
have
here.
you.
Great to be here.
Yes, and we're glad that we know this is a dream come true for you.
Yes.
And so we're
Yes,
happy to
it
do
is.
this for you. All right, Heath. All right, so on Twitter yesterday, I'm posting a couple of things, and then I see it. The thing that shocks me, you are not filling out a bracket for this year's NCAA tournament.
Yeah, for the 10 years that I was at Alive Wesleyan, there on the campus of Southern Wesleyan, we did a bracket challenge every year, and we would give out brackets to all the students, and we would have so many people participating and kept up with that. Now, so many people do brackets online, and typically, Clemson, that's my team, they have scratched and clawed and made their way into at least the first round of the NCAA tournament, and weren't able to do that the last 2 years. And, we have not had cable for 14 months. That was a choice we made, not to have. And so I have not watched.
So you're just out of the loop.
I'm out of the loop. Yeah. I don't know who. And the way that the college basketball is, I grew up, this is from 1989 to 1997. I've got every championship game on VHS. I watched the Duke UNLV championship game from 1990. I probably watched that game 30 times. But just a huge basketball fan, college basketball fan. But back then, the good old days, you got to know the players, and there were players you just hated, and they were there for 4 years. And now
that's the beauty of basketball.
Now with one and done, you don't really have time to build this relationship with these players, and so there's such a turnover in college basketball.
I don't fill out brackets. I stopped that because
you quit gambling.
That's right.
You finally decided to live up to the covenant membership commitments of the Wesleyan Church. I understand.
My counselor said I had to give it up, I found myself rooting for teams I didn't want to root for. And so it's like, I'm not filling this bracket out anymore, man. So
I'm in the same boat as you.
Yeah.
When you don't have access to cable, to ESPN, and in our area, you can't get an over-the-air CBS signal. I'm just so out of the loop. I watched the ACC tournament on Raycom Sports website, live streamed it, but.
Well, here's the deal. Last year,
the same boat. None of us know the players.
Last year, and I'm pretty sure if you go back to the shows from last year, you'll hear me bragging about this. But I got all four of the Final Four right last year. I had Kansas and Kentucky in the finals, but I had Kansas winning. So, I almost had about as perfect a bracket as one could have.
So, yesterday I was talking to our guest, Russ Gunsalus, and I said, hey, we might talk basketball. Are you comfortable with that? Yeah, but he admitted that he's about a decade or two behind. So Russ, now you're aware that Jordan made it to the Bulls, right?
Yes, that part I remember. And I tell you, I'm like Heath. He's 13 months behind because of cable. I'm about 13 years behind because of that same phenomenon. So,
well, let me tell you, John Stockton did a great job for
he
Utah.
And Karl Malone. What a great little pair they made.
Team.
Yeah.
Well, he's still thinking Glenn Robinson, the big dog from Purdue.
No.
Right. Is Mookie Blaylock still playing?
Mookie Blaylock. That's great.
My word.
Hey, by the way, he mentioned how much he missed having a quote-unquote relationship with you, Heath. So, he really feels that not being able to know the players.
Hey, Mookie Blaylock was one of my favorites.
Did you know Bobby Knight's not at Indiana anymore, Russ?
Yes, I heard that. I heard he went down to Texas.
He is a little bit behind.
Yeah. And he's doing great down there, Russ. He really is.
Yeah. The chairs are all attached to the floor down there, so he's really thriving.
Well, he just changed he went from red sweaters to black sweaters.
See, what we're trying to do is prove that we did not bring you on the show to talk basketball, Russ.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
Yeah. All right, well, listen, we could spend
IU this year.
Say that again?
I am pulling for IU this year because they finally drug themselves out of the purgatory that Samson put them in. So, that's a good story. Tom Crean's a good guy. Other than that, I've just exhausted my NCAA knowledge for this year.
Well, that's very good. I'm a Wisconsin fan, so I'm proud of the way that we, we handled Indiana all year long. So,
yeah.
All right.
Those.
Listen, obviously we have you on the show to just talk about your position there at the general headquarters. And, we could spend the next hour talking about education, clergy development, what it is. In a nutshell, give our viewers a sense of your responsibilities, what your department does for the Wesleyan Church.
Yeah, well, basically, if you can think of a Venn diagram with like education in one circle and kind of ministerial preparation, clergy development in the other, we care about our educational institutions and we partner with them, facilitate cooperation, work with the churches to engage with them so that they can continue to do the great job they do of equipping students for the kingdom and for the Wesleyan Church in particular. And then they intersect, especially as they engage in preparing ministers and educating ministers. And then on that side of the coin, basically the idea from one's call to their coronation, and I can't think of a better C than that for now, we help engage them in trying to become healthy, fit, effective ministers for the long haul. So we really are trying to participate with the districts, with the churches, and with people that are called into ministry to give them the tools and resources and formation that they need to be healthy, fit, and effective for the long haul. So, and then those obviously intersect in the middle. So those two pieces, our 5 schools and our ministers as they move through a lifetime of service, we work with them to make that something that builds the kingdom and builds the church.
Yeah.
Now, you see Christian education in the Wesleyan Church from a vantage point that very few of us get to see. So what might some of the things be that would surprise us or that we kind of take for granted?
Yeah, well, I've been really fortunate in being able to see it from the underside as far as a participant. Went to one of our schools, taught at another, daughter at a third, et cetera. But having been through a round of board meetings, one of the things that really impressed me and right off the bat is, well, how there's a tendency for all of us to, latch on to little tidbits of doom here and there if we hear there's a crisis there, there's a crisis there. I was very excited to see not only really healthy schools, but unbelievably passionate and focused administrative teams and faculties at those schools. And then also, and this is the part that was new to me, having not served on those boards, was the boards, the board of trustees at all of our schools are phenomenal, passionate, Christ-centered, focused on the kingdom, as well as bringing all this kind of expertise and the wisdom to guiding an institution through the kind of days that we face in higher ed. So those things were really something that was, I thought, unique. You don't get to see that all the time, and very few people get to see it at all of our schools. And they all are really led at that level by really passionate, focused, kingdom-building people. So it was inspiring, actually, to watch it happen.
Russ, let me put you on the spot here a little bit. At Indiana Wesleyan University, they launched Wesley Seminary.
Right.
And I know that you were in some meetings about that, had some involvement. Maybe take a little bit of time out and talk about that and kind of the evolution of that. Yeah,
that was, I kind of joke that Ken Skank and I were kind of co-conspirators and putting that together with, a whole bunch of other people. A lot of the religion faculty at IW, David Smith and Keith Curie, and the list goes on. And then there was already a master's program there in graduate ministry. So it was one of those rare moments where you had an opportunity to whiteboard what would we construct if we were today trying to develop something to help make ministers and do the MDiv. So For instance, we were able to start from the get-go with a really kind of lean curriculum. We started from a perspective of making it accessible and affordable and effective, so that pastors don't have to leave their churches. They can do this online or even in modules as they come in, which helps economically. They maintain employment, as well as they're grounded in their local ministry while they're doing school. So that kind of unique piece of it, and then designing it around the domains of what ministers do from the get-go, and then integrating the foundational kinds of disciplines, history, theology, biblical studies, into the practices of ministry. So preaching, teaching, leading. So the curriculum is integrated, and the program is integrating the pastor or the student with their church.
Sure.
So you have these two levels of integration. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really affordable. The church has helped with the scholarship piece, so it's only about $8,000.
Yeah, I was gonna jump on that for Wesleyan pastors. We have touted it on this show that the affordability of this program alone, it deserves at least a look at the program.
Absolutely.
And now, like for somebody like me who is from the South, the new partnership with 12 Stone, that's only about an hour and 30 minutes from me. That's just
exactly.
And that's. Oh, go ahead.
That's been what's great. I'm just saying, as that got launched, then having Wayne Schmidt become the first head of the seminary was just ideal for us and for the Wesleyan Church, because here's a lead pastor with awareness and involvement in the academy who really has that kind of cachet. So he's just been doing an amazing job, like, for instance, the 12 Stone Partnership.
Yeah. Let's jump ahead a little bit. You know that I wanted to eventually get to the General Conference this past year, and Kevin Myers, here again, you talk about Wayne Schmidt. So the seminary president is a pastor. Well, Kevin Myers pastors the largest Wesleyan church, and he really weighed in on education. And, Heath just brought this up, this kind of partnership with 12 Stone. And at the conference, I mean, Kevin Myers just really challenged our denomination with this thing of intentional internships. And so maybe help us kind of sort this out. How the intentional internships, what Wesley Seminary is doing with 12 Stone, I mean, where does all this fit?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of one of those things that kind of in the water, the need for increased grounded practical education while people moving through the process, as well as not having them pull out of their church, so to speak, to get education. And so the schools have been working in that domain for a long time and trying to improve that with apprenticeships. But having a person of Kevin's stature put the emphasis on the need for that, and then help us to address this idea of, in that first 5 years, is often a real kill box for ministers. Yeah. So we went and convened a meeting together with the 12 Stone crew, Dan Ryland, Kevin, and Miles Welch, and some other churches that are engaged in apprenticeship in the fall. And out of that, they were already kind of ramping up and expanding their apprenticeship process. And also, we've now got some other churches identified, and we're going to be helping facilitate and in constant conversation with those guys too. So there's a lot of options for people when they're fresh out of ministry to be in a nurturing, teaching church environment.
Yeah, I don't know to what degree there's any kind of cooperation with headquarters, but I know that Alive Wesleyan Church right here in Central, they've been in contact with 12 Stone about their internship program and providing those here, and those are 2-year positions, which I think is fabulous. I have told the story before. I went to Southern Wesleyan. From there, I went to Asbury. I came and I pastored my first church, and literally, and I'm embarrassed to say this now, but literally after I was there for about 3 or 4 weeks, my goal was to finish the first year, because that would be the proper time to resign. I would at least try to do. Yeah, because you feel like it's
brutal.
Yeah, it's brutal. You feel like you're in over your head, and what you don't realize is that every pastor who went before you had that same feeling, but you're afraid to, because you look at your colleagues, you say, oh, they're so competent, they're going to look at me and say, well, what's wrong with you? I mean, for crying out loud, you spent 8 years of your life preparing for this moment.
Yeah. And they forget what it was like the day that they sat in that chair thinking, oh my, what do I do now? I tell you one other piece besides, if you can go to an apprenticeship, that's great. But some people, they go right out into it.
Yeah.
And what we're trying to institute is, as soon as you start the process of preparing for ministry, even called when you're young, wherever it happens, is you then are partnered with a mentor, a guide, a kind of an apprentice person, so that you have that resource person even if you're not in a resource kind of church, so that to help ameliorate that problem you just talked about. You're not alone. People have gone through this before. Here's some good sage advice. So,
well, you know, this weekend Southern Wesleyan's putting on an event. It used to be an annual event, Fellowship of the Called, for students who are called to ministry, and it's on campus, and it introduces kids to the whole process of studying for ministry. And so let's talk about that. Talk to us about ministerial preparation. What are some things you see that encourage you right now, and what are some things you see that are challenges to us?
Yeah, one little fun side note is I was in the first cohort of Fellowship of the Call because at Urbana in '82.
Yes.
Yeah, baby. You know, we took off those bands and threw them on the stage, and you know, God got us. And so I've had a long relationship with Fellowship of the Called, and I worked with it when I was in the youth department too. So I'll tell you what. Here's some of the challenges that are different. You have a phenomenon of a lot more people, I think, and I don't have hard data on this, but making that marketplace to ministry shift. So that's a different kind of trajectory and experience.
Yep.
And then you have students, for whatever cultural phenomenon that causes this, there's a little bit of a kind of delayed adolescence. And this is across the board. It's not just with ministry students. Yeah. So they don't get the same kind of experience. And, you know, in one sense, you know, back in the day, some of us got thrown to the wolves, like Tony's testimony. In another sense, you know, you need a little more nurture, maybe a little more attention, and helping you boost that launch phase of your ministry. So those kinds of things are challenges. But I'll tell you what, every time I get together with ministry students, and especially people that are adult ministry students, or they've got a few years under their belt and they're trying to get education or move through the ordination process, it's absolutely inspiring because of the passion, the commitment, and the calling. And they don't do it for a raise or a promotion, you know. They're doing it for the kingdom. And so that keeps me encouraged that God still calls people. They're still committed and passionate about fulfilling that call. Yeah. And if we can just partner in that way to help them do it, that'll be a huge win for the kingdom and the church.
I'm curious, from an anecdotal point of view, I'm a district ministerial board of development chair here in South Carolina. Yeah. One of the things that I'm being challenged and our board's being challenged by is that this whole thing of tent making, in other words, people who are seeking ordination but also are seeking another career, and who are actively wanting to take that career and then fold that into their ministry and to be out in the mainstream of culture and society. And so, I mean, that's a challenge. And the way we're resolving it is it's just case by case.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, what are you seeing across the denomination?
Yeah, there seems to be, there's this middle zone. I know we have some language licensed and commissioned, but there's this middle zone of people that, and sometimes they're young and they're coming out and they just want to be engaged in ministry in the church as part of their vocation, or maybe even their entire vocation, but they don't see themselves as marrying them, burying them, baptizing them in the pulpit, right?
Right.
But they do want to do all this other stuff. So one of the things we're wrestling with we've talked about it with district superintendents, and we'll be with DBMDs, is where do we, as we develop, as we tweak the ordination process, where can we have a spot that's valid, affirmed, equipped to be ministers?
Yes.
But then there's this other spot that's like, that's ordained. I'm doing this for a lifetime. Not only am I caring for a congregation, but I'm a caretaker for an entire denomination and a cohort of clergy. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
And
so wow.
That's some of what I'm hearing and some of what we're wrestling with in a lot of different conversations. And so we hope to, we have this kind of outcomes project that's going on.
Right.
We hope to, at the other end of that, help tweak the process so it really matches where we are today with ministers and how they're called and how they function.
One of the comments or some of the discussion in the chat room today, Russ, is the cost of Christian ministerial education and preparation. You said it before, Wesley Seminary, again, probably the most affordable seminary for a Wesleyan pastor. But what are some things that the denomination is doing to make sure that our 5 Wesleyan schools are, again, providing the most quality education out there, but also not overburdening our ministers? I mean, how many ministers are out there? Right. One of the quotes, up to eyeballs in debt.
Yep. Well, I tell you what, I just got off of the board meeting at Oklahoma Wesleyan at the Wesleyan Educators Council with the presidents and the board chairs. This is a hot topic, and of course, amongst ministry people, it's a multi-phase process. The cost of higher ed has been shooting through the roof. Period.
Yep.
But some of the things we're doing is we're looking at trying to leverage, for instance, loan grant money, and make part of that matching. So a student will engage in the church of origin or church of service to match some of that. So that brings maybe 50% or more to the table to help them in that area. The schools have really generous scholarships for ministers. They plow a lot of their EIF money back into Wesleyan students in general and ministers. And then we're looking at some other ways to just help develop scholarships and make those more robust and do some development work and endow that. And one little tidbit that's a real long-term kind of solution is we're moving towards requiring anybody that takes a scholarship or a grant to have a financial literacy course that's part of that they take. And that'll help for the long haul with awareness for themselves and their churches.
Very good. Very good. One thing you said there, Russ, that I like is I like the idea of putting a little bit more pressure on the local church in terms of responsibility for people in ministry and trying to, I know the church that I pastored for a while and now Matthew pastors, we set up a scholarship. It's a modest scholarship. Southern Wesleyan at the time, and I haven't pastored for a few years, but at the time they had a modest matching scholarship thing, and so if you had someone studying for ministry up to so much, they would match that. And I think that's proper pressure that at the local level, because someday maybe the person that you're giving a scholarship to isn't necessarily going to come back to your church, but the point is this: at some day you're going to want the denomination to send you a name.
Exactly. And one encouraging thing is, even with some of the debt, it's lower than most, but even with the debt they carry into a profession that doesn't pay a ton, there's only like in our Wesleyan schools, only like a 3% default rate on loans, which is unbelievable when you look at it. So they find a way to be faithful and pay it off, but we'd like to relieve that debt.
Yeah. Well, and you've heard stories like I'm going to tell you, but as DBMD chair, we see debt all the time come before us with students, and it breaks our hearts. And there are some times where someone is, they're already carrying a lot of debt, and they're talking about going on to graduate school, where my reaction is, no, because you're at a point right now where what you're going to do is you're going to price yourself right out of the ministry, because there's no church you're going to be able to get that's going to be able to afford to give you the salary that's going to allow you to pay these debts off and plus just live. And here, what we've done, Russ, we've worked ourselves right back into a plug for Wesley Seminary. I so applaud Indiana Wesleyan and Wesley Seminary for providing a Master of Divinity that is affordable, and I think that's more important now than it's ever been.
Yep, absolutely.
So, quick question, okay, Tony, you went to Asbury. We don't want to read your mail or anything. Russ said Wesley Seminary's $8,000 for MDiv, or not. I know with the MA is about $8,000. The MDiv is a little bit more because it's a longer. How's that compared to what you paid to go to Asbury? And they're still paying.
Couldn't tell you. No. Listen, my total debt out of Asbury was $1,500. Now, my wife and I made a commitment going in that we were going to live humbly. So, Russ, you know where the Broadhurst apartments were and the duplexes. Very humble housing. It was 650 square foot of cinder block house that worked like an oven in the summertime. It took me 4 years to get through. At one point, we thought it would take 5 years because we paid as we went. So that was a commitment. I was carrying $10,000 of college debt. And it was apparent to me at the time, where incomes were, if I load a lot more debt, this is going to become problematic for us. And it was my wife who said, if God's calling us to this, then we can trust him to provide. And he did. But it was for the humblest years of our lives, but for the greatest years of our lives as well.
Well, and that kind of working your way through, and I hear this oftentimes, it says, well, I worked when I was in college through, and these students need to work their way through. That is definitely the kind of values and definitely what you want to do. And I did the exact same thing. I paid my way as I went through. But what's changed is the overall cost of higher ed has gotten so huge. And, it's not like minimum wage kept up with it. So the jobs we had to pay for school wouldn't even make a dent these days. Well, it makes a dent, but it does not pay for the high cost of higher ed. And so there's that challenge of helping people work and be responsible, but at the same time helping to put downward pressure on the price and provide scholarship for it.
Yeah, I think too, Russ, I'm just curious, you have a broader understanding, but I've had the discussions on our district that we've got to establish an endowment for people in ministry. And even however humble that is at its beginning, over time, if you can begin to funnel money to that and to where that endowment gets up big, where you can offer good scholarships.
Yeah, exactly. And then you can use those scholarships to drive the commitment to inform ministers with the outcomes that the church wants.
Yeah.
Instead of just, go through the program and have no real hardcore buy-in on the dollar side, as well as on the calling and commitment to the church side.
Right.
Russ, one more question from the chat room that's being asked is for the Wesleyan loan grant, there's a lot of schools that are approved for who you can get that from. One of the questions was, there are some Nazarene institutions that are approved, some that aren't. I've tried to tell them in the chat rooms, it depends on the mascot of the school. I don't know that that's correct.
Absolutely. And the region. No, I tell you what, one thing we've been looking at is tying those dollars more to the student, because really in the long run, what we care about is strengthening the relationship with that ministerial student, not the institution itself.
Right.
So there probably is going to be a shift towards the connection to the student, and like the dollars go with the student, not with the institution, so to speak. So you know what I mean? So hopefully that'll help ameliorate some of that. But if there's a person in the meantime that really is committed to the Wesleyan Church and finds himself in an institution where it's not like on the list right now, tell them to contact our office, and we work with some exceptional cases on occasion, and we're glad to do it because we care about the minister.
The Techology Show, looking out for you, our viewers.
That's right. We will put you, Russ. You heard it here first. Russ Gunsalus will put you on.
Russ is giving scholarships. Russ is giving.
Notice I said contact our office.
Yeah,
that's it.
Russ, our target audience is people in ministry, and so we kind of want to just give you a wide open platform right here, just to say anything you want. So, for any pastor or student that's listening, what kind of message do you want to deliver to them about the future of our denomination and the work that people are out there doing?
I tell you, I'm going to give one that's kind of a practical one, and then I'm going to say something I think is the core piece that matters the most today with ministers. One is we're starting a project called What is a Wesleyan Pastor? And there'll be these focus groups and social media avenues and all these ways people can chime in across the church. Professors, pastors, parishioners together trying to decide what are the aspirational outcomes that we say together with God are what we need to become as ministers. So when you hear about that, please chime in. It's not like for buying, it's for literally, we have no idea what the outcome will be if we don't talk. If we don't talk to each other and join with the Holy Spirit in that, we won't know that. So when you hear about what is a Wesleyan pastor, please chime in. The second one is, and I said this at General Conference just kind of serendipitously, I hadn't thought about it, but much in this language, but God cares more about you than your ministry.
Yeah.
And there are so many people that they think that God just, it's subtle, it's subtle. God really wants me because I can do this for him. It's this utilitarian grinding up a minister for the sake of the kingdom. And so I think if ministers remember that call and that love from God, and that God loves them more than anything they'll do for him, that gets you in a really healthy, fit spot to really be effective for the kingdom. And I think that's the thing I think most ministers need to hear today.
Yeah. Well, very good. Well, Russ, we appreciate you taking time out of a very busy schedule.
Absolutely.
My pleasure, absolutely.
Yeah, your time is a gift. Hey, keep an eye on this guy called Patrick Ewing. He's going to do great things in the NBA.
Nice. I love his shorts. I hope that comes back.
No.
Hey, love you guys. Thanks so much for the invitation.
Oh, yeah.
You guys are making a great difference in this media and then with the conversations. It's awesome.
All right, man. Blessings on you.
All right, peace to you. See ya.
Bye-bye. It's hilarious. We were going on yesterday about the whole basketball thing, and he was, so it's like Magic Johnson. Now how's he doing?
I tell you, that's one of those deals where we kind of just scratched the surface, but it was really good to hear Russ's heart on a variety of topics, and I can imagine being new position. He's new person, new position that's never been there before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's doing a great job too.
Absolutely.
I know he's running himself ragged as well. I mean, he's at a lot of places and he gets around a lot.
I don't know if we said this, but he was actually on the line with us from Kansas City.
Yeah, and we, he said that he didn't think of it till this morning. Man, they got Google Fiber out there. He should have. He said he tried to contact. There's a Google store there.
But you can go in and.
But he said they didn't open up till noon our time. The 11 o'clock Central out there.
So we could have beta tested Google Fiber along with.
Yeah.
Man alive! Yeah, that would have been awesome.
Yeah. So, well.
If you live in the Kansas City area and you're a watcher of the show, we want your HD Google Fiber video on our podcast.
We do. All right, time for
Download of the Week.
So, this past week, Lifehacker put something out just showing you if you are an Amazon Prime member. So I'm sorry for everyone that's not. All right. If you're an Amazon Prime member and you have a Kindle device, Amazon has made available 300,000 books that you can read for free. I did a little video here just to show you how to access those. So here it is. First thing you want to do is head over to Amazon.com. Once you're there, make sure you're logged into your account, and you can see right here that I am. To the left of the search window, there's the word all on the
That was fun. That's the video that you sent me. I'll try to work on that, and we'll get back with you. You want to try to explain to people just in a...
I'll run through it here just on my computer.
Let's see if I can... I'm going to try. No, I can't. There's no way. Go ahead. I can't.
All right. So I'll just talk it out. So you go to Amazon.com. Make sure you're logged into your account. At the search window, all the way to the left, you see a down arrow, the word all. Click on that, and then choose books. Go back up to the search window. To the right of the search window is the word go. Click on it. You're going to look all the way to the left side of the page now. You're going to scroll down about halfway.
This is getting very difficult. Yeah, go.
Yeah.
And
it's hard to follow.
Okay.
I tell you what. Let me try this. I'm going to work on your video and see if I can get it in at the end of the show today when we're all done. It'll be there. It'll be after our exit, and we'll have it in the recorded version too. So just fast forward if you're watching to this.
All right.
It's not live.
You're going to say something.
Well, yeah, this is you can go on your tablet or your laptop to see what books are available. But if you're a Prime member, the only way to actually borrow the book is if you own an actual
Kindle
device. And let me just say, I have borrowed a bunch of books. I think you can borrow maybe one book a month, and then you get it for a month, and then so you got to read it. So, just really, really helpful stuff.
All righty. Well, let's keep moving on here. Time for They Said It.
Read my lips.
I'm going to say this again.
Wow. I've never taken steroids or HGH.
This is not your video that's the problem.
Creating the internet.
This is me.
The Macintosh, of all the machines I've ever seen, is the only one that meets that standard.
I'm not a crook. I'm not a crook.
If you know what you're doing
Line
here.
this one out.
Slide out.
All right.
Chalk it up to lack of experience or the thrill of breaking rules, but either way, most mobile users have committed one or more transgressions through their devices. Leslie Meredith, in her article, The 7 Deadly Sins of Smartphone Users, source, Fox News.
People do engage in some of these activities that we believe only, for example, perverts engage in. What the goal is to increase compassion for people who may engage in activities that are not what you would personally consider normal. Dr. Jill McDevitt at Yale's sensitivity training event, in which students were asked to consider topics such as bestiality, incest, and accepting money for sex. Source, Campus Forum.
The disagreement was about what the scripture teaches about human sexuality, and we just felt it was best, since she didn't see the scripture being an authority on that issue, it would be better for her to not lead within InterVarsity. Kim Coy, InterVarsity Christian Fellowship's area director for Central Florida, speaking after Rollins College in Winter Park, Florida, kicked InterVarsity Christian Fellowship off campus because the organization removed a student from a leadership role based on her beliefs about human sexuality. Source, 13 News, Orlando, Florida.
We're going to push this thing as fast as we can. Bring finality to this to determine if there's anybody else that should be charged, and then the community needs to move on. But you cannot bring finality to this without the convening of a grand jury. We have 16 witnesses who wouldn't even talk to us. Ohio State Attorney General Mike DeWine, in a press conference held after 2 members of the local high school football team were found guilty Sunday of raping a drunken 16-year-old girl. Source, USA Today. So that last story there, I mean, this is blown up across the nation. I heard one person say this has become an international story.
Yeah.
There are so many avenues to go with this, and we were talking in the pre-show. Don't even quite know where to start. This is one of the things that this clearly is. It's clearly a story about social media.
Yep.
The prosecutor said that, to be honest, we didn't even need witnesses because there were enough tweets, Facebook posts, and pictures that went around that we made our case. The girl's mother said, I'll just read from the USA Today article, after the verdicts, the victim's mother addressed this comment to the defendants. You were your own accusers through social media. And how many times, and we've discussed social media and the power of social media, and I mean, when it's out there, it's out there.
Yeah. This is, to me, just shows the depravity of the world we live in, that these, at the minimum, these 2 students are taking advantage and doing this to this female student. Not just that they're doing it, that in their mind is okay in the moment.
It's like recreational.
Right. But that, man, we're going to tweet about it. We're going to post it on Facebook. The young lady didn't even know what had happened. She was, I mean, this is a whole other issue within this story. She was so drunk, she did not remember anything, but people started talking to her about the pictures, these nude photos that were being posted of her online. Yeah. And that's kind of how this whole story came.
And that's where all the tweets come in, and the texting, and they're able to, where she's discovering about this. Yeah. In the USA Today article, it says friends of the girl testified they tried to get her to leave the party, but she insisted on staying with the boys. So another storyline here is like, like I have a 14-year-old daughter. You want to set her down to say, hey, listen, look at this story.
Yeah.
And you need to understand that if you put yourself in some positions, you can be taken advantage of, and that's exactly what happens to this young girl.
Yeah.
The attorney general is absolutely dismayed at how much alcohol is flowing among the teenagers, and has criticism for parents, saying some parents understand this kind of behavior is going on, doing nothing to clamp it down. The judge said, again, I'll read from the article, visiting Judge Thomas Lips said he had reviewed the text messages and photos and found them, quote, profane and ugly. I'm aware this is the first time they have been in trouble with the law, Lips said, but these are serious offenses. If they were convicted in an adult court of these charges, they would be spending many years in prison.
And we're not just talking like they went to one house and they had a party and there was drinking going on. So part of this rape, I mean, let's not sugarcoat it.
Yeah, they're guilty. They were found guilty of rape on Sunday.
That this happened at a house, but also continued in a car on a way to another party. And so, man, my thinking is, can you charge the homeowners? Can you charge the homeowners if they're aware, if they are supplying alcohol to underage teens, and these things are happening under their supervision or because of their lack of supervision, are they then liable either in the court of law or through civil suit? Or I'm telling you, there is just
they're bringing together a grand jury,
right?
16 people that would not speak to the prosecutor, and it's got the prosecutor frosted to say you are going to speak. We'll convene a grand jury on this.
This story's messed me up. It's got me on this train of thought about who all bears burden of guilt in this, and there are so many hands that are covered in blood basically in this story.
Yeah.
And it seems like the attention oftentimes goes to the guys, but I hope that, I mean, in a way, as parents, why is your daughter at this party? What they bear a burden of guilt in this. Not, and I don't want to act like what the guys did was right. It was not at all. It was profane and absolutely wrong.
Yeah.
But boy, if I were the parent in that situation, I think this is basically in our pre-show discussion, kind of what I said about that, is they are seeking the highest possible in juvenile court, the highest possible sentence for these boys. As a parent, I have to imagine that my heart, I'd be seeking that for my own daughter too, because. And for myself, good gracious, you can't come down, throw the hammer down on these guys and say that's it, that now everything's good, because there's so many hands covered in blood in this story.
Because in this story, you catch a glimpse of a subculture within our society that is kind of pushed under the rug, but it is definitely a part of society. They're like this. The prosecutor said, I mean, this stuff goes on. It is almost sanctioned by parents. They know it's going on. They don't do anything to stop it. And we talked about this in the pre-show. These guys are football players.
And it's Steubenville high school team, which has national prominence. So they've been on ESPN for games. And so we're not the only ones that have made this connection. This has been part of this story.
Yeah.
To what extent have these football players been put on a pedestal? Both young men, it said that they had promising college careers ahead of them.
And that is part of the reason this story has been so big, is you got these two star football players involved in it. But I think we've created a culture where absolutely abhorrent behavior is not just accepted, but it's encouraged. And that, to me, as a parent, I am fearful. I want to lock the doors.
I don't fully understand all the letters of the law and all that, but if you are, I mean, this has just been where my mind is on this story. If you are a legal guardian, is there not some justice that comes down on you that someone that you are responsible for?
Right. But see, we've got messed up in our culture, because this, I mean, we want to give responsibility to the parent and even hold them legally to some kind of consequence, and yet if your 14, 15-year-old daughter turns up pregnant, they can go around the parents to get an abortion. And so, I mean, here's what's refreshing to me about this story is this isn't the church that's wailing away at this.
Yeah.
We have a legal system in Ohio saying this is out of control. This is the way animals live.
Yeah.
And this is egregious, and you have a state attorney general who is blowing it up.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And one thing was pointed out, NBC, they covered this Sunday night, and they were talking about you see these two players, and they're holding this girl, and she's passed out. One's holding on to the legs, the other the arms. And so whoever took that picture, I mean, the attorney general is saying that person's
who's
liable.
Behind that?
Every person at that party that was laughing when these pictures were taken is liable.
If you post, I mean, that's child pornography. If you post a nude photo of an underage person without their consent or their knowledge, or even with their consent or their knowledge, that's this whole thing, it's going to be very interesting over the next couple of months to keep an eye on this and to see how deep it goes and how widespread it is. and just it is
yeah,
sad.
It's not off the radar screen yet.
I mean, I'm heartbroken because so many bad choices made, so many lives ruined, and so many people asking the question, how could this have been prevented?
Yeah, and through social media, this will live forever. It's out there on so many platforms.
Yeah.
You'll never scour
absolutely.
I tell you what, we've got. I know there's other stories to cover, but if the viewer will bear with me, I think I found the solution for getting our videos working, because we have another one to show. But it's gonna mean we're all gonna go away. You'll still hear us. So just so you know that we're still around, go ahead and talk to everybody. Make them feel comfortable, because this is about to be a jarring transition for them. Go. You ready? Just soothe the listener.
Okay, be calm. Be calm.
Okay, we're gone now. You can't see us, but we should be back in just a second. Hold on. Okay, come on, people. Come on. Man, I've been.
What
come
do
on.
you do?
Come on.
I don't know what "come on" means.
It's.
We're hoping.
Are we back? Are we back? Are we kind of back?
There we are.
No, everything's back.
I see us up there on the screen, kind of like me.
Kind of. Yeah.
Oh
no.
I see the chat.
I'm frozen.
Yes.
All right.
All right. Now we should be able to from here. So go ahead and get your other stories, but I should be able to queue up that last video. Hopefully, this is going to take care of that. And
yeah. Well, let's do this. We already knew the bulk of our conversation was going to be on that one, and we have less than 15 minutes. So let's go back to the download of the week, just so they can see us run through how to access those books.
All right, come on now, thing.
We're gonna
Here
try
we go.
this.
Hopefully this is going to work this time.
First thing you want to do is head over to Amazon.com.
Yay!
Once you're there, make sure you're logged into your account. You can see right here that I am. To the left of the search window, there's the word all and the down arrow. Click on that. You want to choose books. Come back to the search window all the way to the right. There's the word go. Click on it. And now in this next window, you're going to be looking all the way to the left, and about halfway down, what you want to find is Amazon Prime eligible. Right here it is. Click on it. Then you have these 4 tabs here. You want to choose Kindle Edition. Once you choose that, now you're in to this library of 300,000 books that you can borrow for free from Kindle. And there are some great titles in here. I mean, some top shelf books. Here's a great example of the 5 love languages. This is a book that many churches have used in small group contexts, Sunday school classes. Here's a book in the corporate world that was huge when it first came out, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. So again, some great titles, and just a big appreciation to Lifehacker for pointing this out and showing us an easy way to access this library.
Yay.
Yay.
Oh, it worked.
And so, like, another video that we wanted to show, this is technology. We're the techology show here. We love technology.
Yeah,
this next one
I'm
here.
super excited about this. I actually, right before I sent this to Tony, I pre-ordered this. So let's see what this is.
Cars have had powerful computers inside them for years, but that hasn't really improved the way that we drive them. In creating Automatic, we set out to unlock our car's potential and redefine people's relationship to driving, making it safer, more efficient, and fun. We did this by introducing your car to your smartphone. It all starts with the Automatic link. Just plug it into your car's data port and follow the simple instructions on screen. Now your car and smartphone will connect wirelessly whenever you drive. Most people don't realize just how big an impact their driving style can have on fuel efficiency. You can save up to 1/3 on gas with only a few adjustments to how you drive. And Automatic helps you do that without being a backseat driver. It learns about your driving style and gives you subtle audio cues when you do things that waste gas, like accelerating quickly. The app shows your weekly drive score and trip timeline, so you can track your progress and see where to improve. A high score could save you hundreds on gas every year. When you drive, Automatic monitors your car's health and warns you if something's wrong. So if your check engine light comes on, you'll see a description of the problem and possible solutions. You can even clear the light yourself and save a trip to the mechanic. Because Automatic connects to your car when you drive, it always knows where you parked. Your family can even access that location for seamless car sharing. Accidents happen, and far too often there isn't someone there to help. If you're ever in a crash, Automatic alerts 911 with your location. It can even contact your loved ones to let them know what's happened and that help is on the way. We wanted to reimagine what driving could be, and I think we did that with Automatic. We believe that cars should live up to their potential and that every driver can be a smarter driver. That's why we created Automatic, the smart driving assistant.
So, Heath, the Techology Show will provide one of these if you provide a free car.
All right.
No, I pre-ordered this. I mean, the moment I saw this, I thought this is really cool. Really cool. So pretty much any car after 1996 has this standardized data port. If you've ever had a check engine light come on, you've gone to the mechanic and they've pulled out this computer thing and they've plugged it into that. And they'll say, okay, here's what the problem is. You know, you've got a bad sensor or whatever it is. How much does that device cost?
Current generation around 60, 65. You can get later generations for about 40.
Yeah.
But the current about 60, 65.
So this device is $70.
Yeah, and it's doing a whole lot
more than just
I'm
check
talking
engine
about a
lights.
device that just does the check engine light and gives you, and as you saw on the phone there, it gives you the code. Once you have the code, you know what the issue is.
Yeah, and now with that device that the mechanic uses, if you don't know that, you got to go look those things up. This is going to have the database built right into it, so it's not going to be like this obscure, you know, you've got code 729B 4 pound 3, and you got to go, you know, check that and say, okay, what exactly is that for my car? It's going to say, okay, it's plugged into this car, it's this code, it's this issue, and you know, get you figured out on that. I'm excited. I look forward to sharing with you guys how exactly it goes. Yeah, it's nifty.
So like, does it talk to? Does it say, "Slow down, bozo"? Does it, you know?
I think it can. Yeah.
Oh. If you like to be called bozo, yeah. I mean, we could start calling you that on the show.
What
if
do
you
you
want.
change? Siri calls me something. I don't know what you did. She calls me something that's not my name, like King of the Universe or something. Back to our stories real quick.
Yeah.
All of our stories had to do with sex.
Yeah, I noticed that especially after we got discussing. Well, the InterVarsity story is one that I think that we need to have deep concern about. So if we don't get to any of the other ones, you have within the organization, there's an ethos that you're going to live by. And one of those is that human sexuality is going to be determined by the scriptures because we see them as authoritative. So they had a leader that they realized was not lining up. And so, I mean, here's an organization where you say, okay, you're not consistent with our stance. You can be in the organization, but you can't be a leader. And they took her from that position. And Rollins College said, no, you can't. College said you can't do that. And so now they've kicked InterVarsity right off of campus. So that group cannot exist on campus.
Yeah.
It's a very dangerous precedent.
Yes. Yeah. Very much so. So they're saying that you can't take a stand for what you believe in because that's discriminatory.
Against her.
But Yale says, hey, all things permissible.
Woo! Yeah. So Dr. Jill McDevitt, she did a sensitivity training seminar there. And we've linked you up with the story, and so for me, this is very disturbing. And
I'm very sensitive to all these things.
Well, and she uses the word normal in quotes in her own presentation, well, in the article in her presentation, to say sexuality, you know, there isn't a norm to it, and we need to loosen up a little bit. We need to have understanding for people. You know, bestiality, those that might be attracted to animals, those that might incest, those that would be attracted to sex within the family, accepting money. You know, we look at that as taboo, and yet, you know, there are people who do that, and let's not be so quick to judge about stuff like that.
Why can't we all just get along? To each his own, live and let live. No.
But this is getting to really some fundamental and foundational issues about truth and what we believe about truth. So in postmodernism, the idea is that there isn't a meta-narrative. There isn't an overarching truth that's universal. That truth is decided locally. And so when you're coming from that approach, this is what's happening with issues like this, to say, wait a minute, just because 10 people say it's wrong, maybe it's not wrong, and maybe we need to just back off a little bit here and have some understanding and just be sensitive about this.
Well, that goes all the way back to the first story, the rape story. The law says it wrong, but somewhere in their mind, the ones who perpetrated this, it was not wrong, because somewhere along the way we have created a society where we are desensitized to things that are morally evil.
So, but Dr. Jill McDevitt would look at that story and say this: that the problem you had there is you had a young girl that was passed out, and she wasn't consenting to what was happening to her.
Right.
And so what she's saying here is that, who are we to say among consenting adults, what's proper and what's not? If they consent to it, why don't we just step out of this?
Yeah.
Well, how can that be with incest? How can that be with bestiality? We don't know what that animal's thinking. Stuff like this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy.
And it all revolves around the sexual too. It seems like. I mean, when do you then take it out of that? When do you say, okay, for the kleptomaniac? For the guy that Jeremy was talking about that came and took the car and then brought it back. He's like, thanks for letting me borrow the car. Remember that story? I was like, like when is that okay? When is that okay to do? Like, okay, it's all right for me to come into your home and just take what I need, it's all it goes back to this idea of sexuality being taken out of the moral category.
Yep.
This isn't a moral issue. This is a whatever.
And we are seeing this. So there is bleed over in other areas. So the idea of a sociopath, there is some feeling. Well, you need to understand that they can't help it. Maybe we shouldn't turn them loose in society, but we need to have sympathy. Well, when does sympathy turn into license? And this is what we're seeing. Sympathy turned into license over and over again.
Keith Jury chimes in the chat room and says, to what extent is the sense that everyone is entitled to their own position regardless of some universal authority go back in some sense to the Reformation? And speaking of the Reformation,
I was wondering where we were going with this.
Speaking of the Reformation, we want, I don't know if it's too soon to do this, but I'm going to do it now.
Go ahead.
We want to thank our friends at Zondervan. They have provided us with,
check it out,
theologian trading cards.
So pull some out there.
So I've got some. Now this one is my favorite one. This one is going to be, it's the make your own theologian.
That'll be the Bob Black Keith Jury card.
Biographical
right there.
and significance of them. Look, it's got a checklist. Now this pack did not have bubblegum in it. Now then you've got, now some of these guys aren't as well known. Nicodemus of the Holy Mountain, no picture for him. Where's the one that I was going to trade Tony for? Probably the hottest card in there. Oh, I can't find it. There it is. Maximus the Confessor. Probably,
Here, get it up there to the camera. Hold it up. There you go.
Maximus the Confessor. That's his rookie card, going for about $300. Jim Mint 10.
Aren't all these rookie cards? I mean,
Vladimir Lusky. These are all from I think I opened the Orthodox pack.
Here, pass that over here. Pass that box over here. I want to look while you.
I'm just saying I cannot find John Wesley in this card.
So real quick here, we're gonna have the creator of the cards from Zondervan on the show. We're still working that out and the time and stuff like that. But he's gonna pop on the show for about 5 or 10 minutes.
They come in categories. They come packed in categories.
Yes.
So you got Wittenberg whistleblowers. Which are early reformers and later Lutherans.
There's heretics. There's a heretic pack in
hermits, monks, and mystics. Missionaries and pastors. Radical Reformation Anabaptists. Where's the Pentecostal one?
I love the radical.
Contemporaries.
And on the back of each card, it has their biographical, it has their significance, has their batting average, ERA.
In all seriousness, big kudos and thanks to Zondervan for sending these out to us. And again,
we
here
look forward to having the Zondervan rep on the show
next week. That they'll pop on the show for 5 or 10 minutes and just talk about these and what they hope. I mean, they have some ambitions for these theologians.
Well, see, they're given team names: the Los Angeles Knights, the Geneva Sovereigns, the Athens Metaphysicians, or something like that. The Crusaders. These are medieval. Wow!
You can tell we're just opening these things up.
This is fun.
Yeah. All right. Also coming up in
heretics. Yes.
What? They even have heretics.
What now?
I'm the heretics pack. Go ahead. I want to see who's in here. Go ahead.
I don't know, but do they have to make your own heretic?
Me here. All right. Yeah, let's talk about what's coming up in the future. So
Tony Casey's in this.
Heath, our guest next week, Ron Hudson.
Ron Hudson's a pastor from Pennsylvania, created a iPad app called Podium Q, which is great for speakers. He's going to be on with us next week talking about how he created an iPad app and the great uses for it for pastors.
All right, week after that, we're going to have Pastor Dan Ryland. He's executive pastor down at 12 Stone. Going to talk about his book, Amplified Leadership. Also, a couple other guests coming up in the future. Keith Lloyd's going to be with us. Dr. Bud Bentz is going to be with us. I want to talk to you about an interview that we finally got secured for. Give me a second here. I want to pull up my calendar. I realize I didn't put it in the show notes, but I know that I entered it into our calendar. In May, we're going to have Rosaria Butterfield on, Dr. Rosaria Butterfield on the show. And I mentioned her. Matter of fact, we had a Christianity Today article about her. She's going to be on the show May the 21st. It's going to be pre-recorded. If you remember, Heath, Rosaria was the professor at Syracuse University. She self-described herself as a leftist Marxist feminist.
Yeah.
Was in a lesbian relationship, and tells this wonderful story of how she wrote about the Promise Keepers movement in 1996. She got all this hate mail on one side, fan mail on the other, but got one letter from a pastor that she didn't know how to categorize, Pastor Ken at a Presbyterian church in town. And because of his love and his compassion, it became transformational in her life. She eventually left that community, left that lifestyle. And this book that she wrote, I think it's The Secrets of an Unlikely Convert. Yeah. It's riveting. It reads like a novel. Right. And so we've worked out an interview with her. And one of my, I told her in my request is I would just love to hear her perspective on how can the church be true to Scripture and to its position on homosexuality, but at the same time be compassionate and caring, because this is what Pastor Ken was in her life. So got some good stuff coming up here in the future.
April 23rd. Write it on your calendar.
Here it is. Yes, yes.
The 200th episode of the Techology Show, which we were talking today. Most podcasts come and go. 200 episodes, what a milestone.
Sorry, I found the John Wesley card. Just wanted you to know. There he is.
He is in there.
John Wesley card. And so, Heath, I mean, what would you give me for the John Wesley card?
Hey, I found it. I was just letting you hold it.
I have it now. I have it now.
I actually bid on.
I contacted Zondervan. Pelagius. There we are.
I like him. He's
there's Whitfield. There's Whitfield.
Go back to the heretic, Pelagius. I like it. He's a little cross-eyed. I don't know if you can see that or not. let me get to your.
Looks like a guy from Duck Dynasty.
The guys from Duck Dynasty are not heretics.
The show's off the rails, man. All right. Again, thanks for Russ Gunsalus being with us today.
Yeah, great interview. Like, I want to now sit down with this guy. This is the first really real interaction I've ever gotten to have with him, and he's the kind of guy I'd like to go have lunch with and listen to talk.
I said in the pre-show, and seriously, when he was elected to the position that he's in now, I mean, I knew right away. I talked to him that day to say, hey, we would love to get you on the show, and it has taken this long. He has been traveling like a madman, but really appreciate him. Very insightful. All right, Heath, I'm wondering where our listeners might find you on this thing called the internet.
I am Heath Mulliken, the only one in the world that's been verified. Heath Mulliken on Twitter, Heath Mulliken on Facebook, HeathMulliken.com, Heath Mulliken at Gmail, everything.
Heath Mulliken all the time.
That's right.
Yeah.
24 hours a day.
Teach.
I'm MatthewTG.com, and Tony, you're AKC64 everywhere you look. Twitter, Facebook, all that. Yeah.
You got it. And if you want to do further research on anything we discussed today, you can find all the links to the stories we covered at our website, thetechologyshow.com. If you want to contact us, you can send your emails to thetechologyshow@gmail.com, or better yet, Matthew and Heath, we
die for this. Yes, we love it if you call us and give us your comments.
There's the number right there on the screen: 3049
Theology.
You can call that number, and it will allow you to leave a message, and we may even play those comments. You could disagree with us. You could agree with us. You could be telling us something, make us aware of an event or anything like that.
Try to claim one of the theological trading cards here.
That's right. You can start.
Chiming in for one of them.
Yeah.
Prices start.
Not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. All right. As always, thanks for joining us. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Adios.
What's happened to us today?
The cards became disruptive, man.
Oh, goodness.
Like kids on the playground, and one kid comes in and he has a new toy. Oh, man. Oh,
give it to me. Give it to me. I want it.